I built a $40 million service business without doing any of the physical work myself. Most people think you have to hire and train a huge team to scale a service business, but it's just not true. If you understand how to work with subcontractors the right way, you can scale faster, stay lean, and avoid burnout. So these are the 6 steps I use to subcontract millions in service work every year without losing control or sacrificing quality. Step 1 is understanding what subcontracting really is and why it can unlock growth in a way that employees never will. All right, so fundamentally what subcontracting is it's hiring someone who owns a business and you're paying them a contract to deliver a service on behalf of you to your client. Some people call it subcontracting, some call it freelancing, some call it hiring an independent contractor, but they're all fundamentally the same thing. And it's in contrast to hiring and building employees in-house to deliver all of your services. You can instead hire and work with subcontractors, independent contractors, freelancers who can deliver on your services to clients on a contract basis instead of an employment basis. Subcontracting is not a dirty word. It's not a bad thing. I'm not out there selling off my clients to the lowest bidder that I can find to do the work for me. At the end of the day, you're hiring people. This is a people business if you're in service, and you've got to hire great people no matter what, and there's a ton of great people out there. So in the video, we're gonna get into all the steps that you're gonna take to hire and find great subcontractors. But first, there are 5 main benefits to utilizing subcontractors in your business as opposed to employees. The first thing is independent contractors come with their own equipment, so you don't have to buy equipment for them. So if you're scaling a service business, the people who are delivering your service, they need certain tools or equipment, whether that's, painting equipment like ladders and sprayers, or roofing equipment, landscaping equipment. A contractor already comes with that, which saves you a ton of money. And you also don't have to deal with the maintenance of your stuff. The next one is they come with pre-trained teams. In a lot of businesses, a subcontractor already has a team of people. So they're simply a business owner, but their business model is to be the service provider. They don't really do a lot of marketing and sales. They just find people like you and me who are doing marketing and sales and have a ton of work, and their business model is to get work from me. I can hire one subcontractor who already has 5 guys on his crew, and I immediately have 5 more people who can deliver to my clients. Whereas with an employee model, if I need 5 more people, I need to go and recruit and train and onboard 5 people individually instead of finding one independent contractor who already comes with 5 people, which makes scaling up a lot easier. Number 3 is it really simplifies a lot of operations. If I'm using an employee model, I need to make sure that my employees are always busy because I have 5 people and 5 people can perform this much work every week. And so I need to make sure I have exactly the right amount of work every single week to keep my 5 people busy. When I'm working with an independent contractor, I don't really need to worry about that. So if I have an influx of work, I can bring on a couple short-term contractors. If I have a dip in work, I just tell them and they'll go find work elsewhere because they're business people who are getting their business from me for now, but they know if they can't get it from me, they got to get it somewhere else. With an independent contractor, it's really simple. It's I'm going to pay you this amount when this service is performed. They perform the service, I send them that amount, and there's nothing else that I need to deal with. Whereas with employees, it can be a little more complicated. The next benefit to subcontracting is seasonality. A lot of service businesses, and a lot of businesses in general, do have some level of seasonality, especially in the home service business or the painting business. We have a ton of seasonality because when it gets too cold to work, things really dip. And so at our company in December, we might have at one of our companies 15 to 25 guys working on houses every day. But in the summer, we have 150 to 160 people working on houses every day. And I only have a couple ways that I can deal with it. One, I can basically massively staff up my team and go and hire tons and tons of employees, equip them, train them, and ramp them up in the summer, and then lay a ton of people off in the winter. Or I can use a subcontractor model. And when I ramp up work, I can bring on more contractors, and when it slows down, I don't give them work because they're business people too, and they're prepared for the seasonality and know it happens just like we do. And then the last one is it saves you time training. When you're running an employee model, you have to train every single person in your business to make sure that you're getting a good result for your clients. And training people is incredibly time consuming, and it's super, super important. However, when you're hiring independent contractors or subcontractors, in a way, you don't need to train them because they're already business owners. They've already trained their team. And if they're not any good, they won't deliver that result and they won't get paid. And so you kind of skip a lot of this training because it's a results and performance driven agreement. So fundamentally, These 5 benefits make using subcontractors and independent contractors to scale your service business so much easier, so that now you can put a lot more of your focus on marketing and sales, and you have this partnership with your contractors to deliver great work to your clients. Step 2 is choosing the right subcontractors, because tier 1 subcontractors can run entire jobs for you. Tier 2 subcontractors can ruin your reputation. So I want to explain the difference between a tier 1 and tier 2 subcontractor. So over the years, we've done over $100 million in subcontracted work through our service business. So a tier 1 subcontractor does a few things different than everyone else. The first thing is they can handle the client experience from beginning to end. So a tier 1 subcontractor can do the initial kickoff or the pre-job walkthrough with a client, set expectations, review the contract, make sure communication is clear. The client and they and us, we're all clear on exactly what needs to get done. They can perform the work every single day and handle the daily communication with a client, giving them updates, letting them know what's going on. And they can do the final walkthrough or the project sign off or the final review with a client at the end of the project, and even take payment. It's just a smooth job site, smooth project, smooth client experience from beginning to end. These are people that we never really get calls from. So as someone who runs a service business where we're in people's homes, this is the kind of subcontractor where we never even need to leave our house to manage this person, because they just do a great job throughout the whole process. Then we have our tier 2 subcontractors. The tier 2 subcontractors, what a lot of people end up settling for unnecessarily. Our tier 2 subcontractors, we can't really count on for that whole customer experience from beginning to end. We can't count on them to do the pre-job kickoff or the project kickoff. We can't count on them for daily communication updates. We can't really count on them to do a good final walk through the client, collect payment. What we notice with a lot of tier 2 subcontractors is there's little issues throughout the whole process. They show up late, they miss a deadline, they have a miscommunication about something, they don't show up one day, they do some sloppy work that a client isn't happy about, and then we have to fix the work. And a lot of business owners get stuck accepting that as just kind of part of the gig. Like, man, people suck, employees are bad, you can't find good help, this is just what happens, you gotta just babysit everybody and micromanage everybody, and they just settle for like that level of contractor without ever being committed to, no, I wanna build a business that only has these people working with me and for me. And when you find tier 1 subcontractors, what you will also find is people who take it so much pride in their work, do an amazing job, and can often like massively outproduce any of the employee crews you could ever build, because their full-time gig is just managing projects, and they're great at it, they love it. It can completely change your life scaling your service business when you find tier 1 subcontractors. Step 3 is building a system to attract and evaluate subcontractors on autopilot, so you're never short on workers. So if you're going to find tier 1 subcontractors, you need a hiring system to attract those contractors so you can build an amazing team of contractors to deliver for your customers. Most people are not exceptional. That's what makes exceptional exceptional, is that it's rare. And so it's true that it's hard to find great people. And it's also true that there are a lot of really amazing people out there, because the world is a huge place and there are tons and tons of people performing work, doing a great job, even though it's a very, very small percentage of people. If you want to hire the top 1%, then you're going to need at least 100 applicants to have a chance at hiring someone who's the top 1%. So there's 3 primary channels that we use to find subcontractors to work with us. And these are going to be examples from the home service business, and I'll give some other examples if I was in some other industries. So the first one is Craigslist. Craigslist is old, it's been around forever, but the thing works. Like, it gets a lot of eyeballs. We find that that works better for finding home service contractors than almost any other platform. We post in the general labor and the skilled trade section. And when I am trying to recruit subcontractors, I post ads every single day, multiple times a day, to make sure our ad is at the top. By the second day of your ad being posted and you're buried on page 2 or 3, you just don't get as many eyeballs, so you don't get as many applicants. So if you're aggressive about posting lots of ads, you'll get a lot more responses. When you get more responses, we can be more selective in the next step of the process. We also utilize Facebook Marketplace, or actually running Facebook ads. So You can pay to run Facebook ads, or you can post on Facebook Marketplace to attract subcontractors. And that has worked really well for me and some of my clients as well. The third one is literally networking. So if I see a painter painting a house on a job site with an unmarked van, I'm gonna go talk to him. You can almost always find people just through networking or going where the independent contractors go and just talking to them. The idea here is that if I wanna find someone amazing, I need to cast a wide net. And the biggest mistake that people make in casting a wide net is they don't. They don't spend enough money, they don't spend enough time, and they don't dedicate enough resources to recruiting the contractors that they need, which is a huge mistake because the contractors you hire are going to deliver on all the work to you and they will make you a lot of money. Once we cast a wide net, the next step is we're gonna start to screen people. At this stage, you're just gonna be really picky at the very beginning. So if we get 100 people, you might only have 20 people get past the screening. They weren't professional, you didn't like how they applied. There's just very basic things that you're gonna look for. And finally, we just align on pricing because fundamentally, this relationship is only gonna work if it works for me and it works for you. So let me give you an example of a project I have and a client I have and what the deliverables are, what we need to do for that client, and I'll tell you what I can pay you. And if it makes sense and you think you can make good money on that, we'll do a project together. If that project goes really well, we'll do more. A lot of times we're gonna find a tier 1 contractor, but we don't align on price. We need to find a tier 1 contractor and align on price, and then we've got to go ahead to do the next step. Step 4 is building trust with your subcontractors gradually through systems, not through blind trust. So at this point in the game, we think we've got ourselves a tier 1 contractor, and now we're gonna start working together. And the way that we're gonna work together is little by little. The very first project that we ever give to a subcontractor is going to be one of our simpler projects. I'm not gonna go from 0 to 100 and give them one of the most challenging clients and challenging projects that I have in my whole portfolio business. I'm gonna start with something simple, something easy with a pretty forgiving client who's super cool because that lowers the likelihood that we have any problems. Now we're gonna talk about how we handle the first few projects. The very first project that we start a contractor on, we're gonna be very hands-on. What that means is they may be a tier 1 contractor who can handle the whole client lifecycle, but they're not going to. I'm gonna be there every step of the way for that first project. I'm doing the kickoff with them every day. I'm the one interacting directly with the client every day. I'm doing the job closeout of the project closeout at the very end with the client. And they're fundamentally just the ones doing the work behind the scenes, or in our case, doing the work on an actual house, doing the painting, but I'm still client facing across the board. If that goes really well and they first prove we can actually deliver on the promises, we can do the work really effectively, then over the next few projects, I'm gonna stop checking in on the work as frequently. And then I'm gonna check in just at the beginning and end of the project. And then I'm gonna start handing off to them that daily communication. And then I'm gonna start handing off to them the initial walkthrough and project kickoff. And then I'm gonna eventually hand off the closeout of the project. Step 5 is learning how to handle conflict with subcontractors in a way that builds loyalty, not resentment. Problem happens with a client and our new subcontractor. When that problem happens, this is how we handle it. First, we jump on the first grenade. You know, they made a mistake. The mistake is gonna cost $500 to fix. And we say, hey, Mr. Subcontractor, this is a mistake. That's not how we operate. You can't do it that way. This is gonna cost $500 to fix. We have to fix it to make the client happy, because if client's not happy, neither of us get paid. This just drags out even longer. So we need client to be happy. It's gonna cost $500 to make client happy. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'll pay the $500 this time, but now let's just be clear that this is the protocol moving forward. The expectations when we're working with clients, what we promise them in the sales process, and why this is a problem is you can't do that thing you did. And in the future, if you do that thing you did again, you'll pay to fix the mistake, not me. And the way we're gonna have this partnership together is when there's mistakes, we learn and we get better together. Cool, so are you clear on how we handle those situations in the future? Great. And that's how we handle every issue. Now, the next time that problem happens, they're gonna pay for it because we were really clear and I was totally reasonable. And so this process builds respect, it builds loyalty, it builds trust, and it creates alignment over time with our crews. And that's why we're able to scale our company so much, is because our subcontractors never really stop working with us because we choose good ones. We onboard them gradually and slowly, and then when problems happen, we use them to create stronger relationships, trusting relationships, and mutual respect with the people that we work with. Step 6 is mastering the conversation you have with your customer, because subcontracting only becomes a problem when you're afraid to talk about it. So these are a lot of the questions that I get from people about subcontracting. There are questions like, what happens when a customer asks you if you're subcontracting? What happens when a customer sees another company show up at their house with a different logo and company name? What happens when the customer finds out that you hired another company to do the work? And so there are all these kind of misconceptions around what subcontracting is and how we handle it and how we operate. So I want to address those few main issues. So the first one I want to address is the subcontractor who steals a project, steals a referral, steals a client, or represents their brand on your project. So that's what I call a deal breaker with an independent contractor. The expectation up front with most independent contractors or subcontractors that they know that's not the deal. When you're delivering a project to my clients, you're representing me and my brand. You're not representing any other brand. You don't have another logo. You don't have a logo in your email signature. You don't wear any other branded materials, and you certainly never take a referral or review or even talk to the customer about having your own business. And so our job is to deliver so much value to our independent contractors that they never want to bite the hand that feeds them. And when we do that, it's a very workable relationship. And if you have people who are constantly taking advantage of you, it's because they don't value you, and you need to take a look in the mirror and say, what am I doing that's not valuable for people? Now let's talk about how we deal with this with customers. So what happens when a customer sees another company? Well, they shouldn't, because of what we just talked about. Subcontractors, independent contractors are representing you and working on behalf of your company, so that should never be an issue. But what happens if it comes up and a customer says, do you have employees or subcontractors? Because that comes up, especially in the home service business. And my response is, we use subcontractors. All of the people that we work with, all the subs we work with, we screen them, we vet them. Everybody we're working with has at least 5 to 10 years, most of them 15 years of painting experience. They're vetted, they're experienced, they do awesome work. But yes, that's the model that we use because of seasonality and other things in our business. We find it's easier for us. And I would just ask them point blank, because some people have concerns, but once I understand what the concern is, I can address the concern. Because the reality here is, at the end of the day, I'm making a promise to a client, and what the client cares about is that I'm delivering on the promise. And it's my job to screen those human beings, to find those human beings, and to make sure those human beings deliver on the promises that I'm making to my clients, and that's why a client is paying me. At the end of the day, whether you're using a subcontractor model or an employee model, you're hiring people. There's great people out there. There's people who suck out there. It's your job to find the great people, to make sure they're delivering to promises to your clients. And when you leverage a subcontracting model in your business, it saves you a ton of headaches. It makes scale a lot easier, and it can create some really amazing business partnerships and relationships with people that can last for years and make you a lot of money and make them a lot of money. If you like this video, check out this video on how I build systems in my business so my business can run without me.